I used to wait 2 weeks for mockups, 2 weeks of nothing while a feature sat in a designer's backlog. I get it, designers are stretched thin, they're juggling 3 different pods, a design system migration and that sort of a rebrand that nobody asked for. But the feature doesn't care about anyone's calendar. Engineering is about to start the sprint with nothing to build. So I stopped waiting and I started running design reviews myself without a designer in the room. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how by reviewing 3 real products. Cal.com, Skyscanner, and Mercury, the finance bank. 3 completely different UX problems, no designer in the room. But here's the thing, on the Skyscanner review, I'm going to run an accessibility audit for 80-year-old users. And what it finds is going to make you rethink every form you've ever shipped. Stick around for that one. Here's the cycle most PMs live in. You write a PRD, beautiful, clear problem statements, edge cases mapped, but you hand it to a designer and it's silence. A week later, you get a first draft and the happy part looks great. But the empty stage, the error handling stage, doesn't exist yet. So you write feedback, another cycle, another week. And this isn't a designer problem, it's a context problem. The designer didn't sit in the user interviews. They didn't see the exact analytics they're designing for. They're designing from a document, not from actual understanding. And that gap is where edge cases go to hide. What if you could just show an AI your actual product, tell it what's wrong, and get back a review, a UX review, and actual redesign, a prototype that you can actually hand it off to your engineering and you can show it to your stakeholders. So let me show you with the first example, Cal.com. If you're a PM running user interviews, you live in this tool. And the availability setup screen is functional, but it's also a wall of repetitive rows. Every day gets its own form. Want to copy Monday's hours to Wednesday? That's a multi-step process. Want a quick visual summary of your week? That doesn't exist. You're reading individual time slots across 7 rows. Okay, so here's what I do. I open Figr AI and I start screen recording directly inside Figr. I walk through the actual Cal.com flow, setting my availability, adding date overrides, copying time between days, and Figr watches everything parallelly. And it's not just screenshots, it captures the complete interaction, the decisions, the friction. Then I tell it that I'm a busy PM setting up availability for user interviews and I have a dynamic schedule, review this flow and make it easier. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Figr doesn't just spit out a new screen, it first creates a visual review point by point. It identifies that there's no schedule summary, no visual heat map, showing your week at a glance. The override model is sort of disconnected from the calendar, and that day-by-day form creates unnecessary cognitive load. Then I ask it to document the changes, redesign the flow, and it produces 3 things. First, a change document with every issue, its severity, and the evidence for it. Second, a complete user flow diagram showing the current path versus the simplified path. And third, a redesigned prototype. The redesign is a calendar first view. I can see my entire week at a glance. Overrides are visible inline. I tap a day and I can add a time block and apply it to other days in one click. Total weekly availability is also right here. No more reading 7 different individual rows of forms, and the whole thing took about 15 minutes from screen share to shareable prototype. And by the way, that flow document, that's the thing that I'm handing off to my designer, not a vague Slack message or a PRD or a text document, a structured spec with rational evidence and a working prototype that they can refine on. That's how you make a designer's life easier, not harder. Okay, so now a different problem, Skyscanner. Everyone uses it. But here's my question. What does booking a flight look like if you're an 80-year-old? This time, I'm not screen recording. I'm using Figr's Chrome extension to capture the actual page. And this is a key difference. I'm not taking a screenshot. It's capturing the full HTML and the CSS with every font size, color value, touch target dimension, even the contrast ratio. The complete CSS is taken and it is now being changed so that any AI and Figr can very easily read it. The raw material a proper accessibility audit needs. I captured 2 screens, the homepage with search form and a search result page for flights from New York to San Francisco. Then I tell Figr, run a UX review for accessibility. Target audience is 80+. Focus on visual clarity and cognitive load. Remember that thing I told you to stick around for? Here it is. Figr comes back with a screen-by-screen audit and it's brutal. Flight detail text sitting below readable thresholds. form labels with a contrast ratio that fail WCAG guidelines. Select buttons with touch targets so small that anyone with reduced motor control is going to struggle. Time displays in a font size that requires squinting even if you're 30. It flags each issue with severity, location on the screen, and a specific fix. Increase this padding, bumping this font size, swapping this color pair for that one that meets AA contrast. These are not vague suggestions. These are actionable, grounded in actual CSS values that it pulled from the actual live page. Now I could stop here. A review document like this is already more than useful for accessibility audits I've seen teams pay consultants for. But I asked Figr to build an interactive prototype which with all the fixes applied, and now I have something I can put it in front of stakeholders. A before and after that makes the case visually more appealing, and it's not just a document or a spreadsheet. Quick note on something I want you to take away from this. As PMs, we talk about accessibility like it's a checkbox or the WCAG guidelines. It's a design decision that affects real revenue. Older users are often the ones with the highest willingness to pay. If your booking flow loses them at the search form, that's not a compliance gap, it's a conversion gap. Okay, now the last one. This is a completely different use case from the first two. For this one, I have a PRD and the Figma designs as well. And what I need to know if the designs actually cover what PRD specifies before the design reviews, and we'll do this in the next 15 minutes. So here's the scenario. Mercury is building a runway forecasting feature for seed to Series B founders. The PRD already specifies 7 screens spec'd out, edge cases for everything from stale data to what happens when all the 5 scenarios of the project less than 3 months of runway. So the design team has delivered some mockups in Figma, and now it's on me, the PM, to walk into a review and know whether these designs actually match the spec. That used to mean opening up the PRD in one tab, the Figma in another, and manually cross-referencing screen by screen, element by element. That takes hours. You always miss the things. So instead, I upload both of these things into Figr. The PRD goes in as a context. The Figma design come in through the Figma input. And I ask one question. Does the design cover the PRD? So what comes back is a structured gap analysis, not a vague looks good or a list of opinions, a screen-by-screen coverage report, and this is where it gets real. Figr identifies that out of 7 spec'd screens, 5 are designed and 2 are completely missing. The scenario comparison view, which is a P0 screen, the thing that lets founder compare, what if I hire 2 engineers against, what if revenue misses by half, there's no design for that. The tab exists in the forecast dashboard mockup, but nobody designed that. What happens when you click it? The core value proposition screen missing entirely. The second missing screen is alert settings. The setting gear icon exists in the design, but when you click it, there's nothing behind it. But here's what impressed me the most. Figr doesn't stop at missing screens. It goes element by element within the designed screens and flags what's incomplete. The forecast dashboard is missing milestone markers on the chart. The PRD specifies user-defined states like board meetings and fundraise targets as vertical markers on the timeline. Not there. So there's no toggle between 12-month and 24-month views. The PRD says 12-month default, expandable to 24 months, no control for that in design. This entire report took about 12 minutes. And look, I want to be honest about what this is and what it isn't. This isn't replacing a design review. This is preparation for one. I'm walking into that review knowing exactly which P0 screens are missing, which elements were dropped, and which edge cases have no design coverage. My designer isn't blindsided, and I'm not fumbling through the PRD live in the meeting. The conversation starts at here are the gaps and let's prioritize. Instead of so did we cover everything? What this adds up to 3 reviews, 3 completely different problems, from information overload on cal.com to screen sharing the product and getting a visual review and redesigned prototypes. Accessibility failures on Skyscanner capture the actual HTML, run an audit for a specific audience, get actionable fixes pinned to real CSS values, and a PRD to design gap analysis on Mercury. Upload the specs, the Figma file, get back a structured report of every missing screen, missing elements, and missing state. Each one took under 20 minutes. Each one produced something I can act on immediately. Am I saying PMs should replace designers? No. What I'm saying is that PM's job in a design review isn't to have opinions about rounded corners. It's to know whether the spec is covered, whether the edge cases are handled, whether the thing engineering is about to build actually matches the thing we agreed to build. That job shouldn't require waiting 2 weeks for someone else's calendar to open up. The whole workflow hinges on one idea. The best design tool for a PM isn't the one that makes the prettiest screens. It's the one that thinks through the UX before it designs. Figr does that because it doesn't start from a blank canvas. It starts from your product context. Link to Figr is in the description. Start your first canvas, upload a PRD and your Figma file and see what it finds. If you've ever walked into a design review and realized halfway through that an entire screen is missing or a flow is missing or a simple edge case is missing, I know that feeling. Drop a comment and let us know.